Hello?
Hello.
Microphone on.
It is on.
Hey, Caitlin, we don't have sound out here.
Test, test. Oh, mine's working.
Testing, testing.
Test. Yep.
Hello?
Test, test.
Here we are.
We got it.
I would like to call to order the East Point Community School Board meeting at 6:32. Can you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Early,
Here.
Mr. Williams here, Mr. Roscoe,
Here.
Mrs. Richardson,
Present.
Mrs. Chopra,
Here.
Mrs. Whitby,
Present.
and Mr. McCain.
Here.
7 present. Can we please do the pledge of allegiance?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have someone please make a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Place forth motion to approve the agenda in its written form.
I had a question or request, if we could. I know we're supposed to go in,
We have to
There
get
needs to be a
support.
sorry,
before we can do
And then,
anything.
okay, support.
Now, we're ready for a question.
Okay. I was wondering if we could possibly move the second hearing and trustee comments ahead of the closed session, so that way, if folks have things that they want to share, anyone in the audience, and then if we want to do our trustee comments beforehand.
You mean above the attorney privilege portion?
Correct.
Are y'all okay with that?
You said the second hearing?
You want to move them?
Here.
change the agenda,
Yeah.
call and have it be reviewed.
We're changing it to
Rescind it.
He would like to know if we can, he would like to know if we can change the agenda and move up, or move down the closed session to number 11 and move everything up.
Because you gotta remove the president.
You gotta
me.
remove
You're making the people wait.
Yeah, because we would have to reapprove the agenda to do that. Yeah, it's better to leave it as it is right now, and then we know from now on to put that at the bottom, before adjournment, but after trustee comments. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
Before closed session.
Yeah, we would move closed session after trustee comments.
Right.
So, are you gonna call the roll, or would you like to make the amendment?
Make your amendment or call the roll.
We can call the roll.
Okay, you guys are talking and not in the mic, and I can't hear you down here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I mean, you said,
Ian was asking if we could change the closed session and move it to before or after, trustee comments. So for tonight's meeting, we're going to keep it the same, but from now on, we're going to move it so that we won't have closed session before trustee comments.
okay, so
The
we're gonna move it up.
So, there might still be.
We're moving it up.
Agenda would be
Yeah.
Is it, was it trustee comments or?
We're
the second
moving
hearing?
it up.
He wants to move the second hearing of the public, which is after the attorney-client privilege.
Right,
Okay.
So he
Just
wants
wanted to
us
be
to
clear.
move it,
up. When,
yeah, trustee comments up, yes.
Right, going up.
Yes, he want to
Okay.
move it up.
okay,
But I was saying we will make sure from now on that we will do that for him.
So we're gonna leave it.
So we're gonna leave this one the same, and from now on, we're gonna change it, because we'll have to change a lot of stuff to move that up.
Because we have to rescind the.
We have to, yeah, because we already approved the agenda, we would have to and do it.
Rescind it now.
fine with me.
Okay.
Well, you haven't approved it yet, you have a motion.
We have a motion on the
second.
floor, and with a second.
Okay,
And
You
so,
can either make the change or call the vote.
let's call the vote.
so the motion is that we would make it with the necessary changes we're about to do?
No,
No?
it's just, the motion is just to approve the agenda. He was asking the question.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Richardson.
I'm confused. If I say yes, then that means we,
You're approving the
Just approving
agenda
the-
as presented
Right.
now, without a change.
so the change is gonna happen next week?
The next time we have
Next
this
time?
situation.
Okay,
Yeah.
as long as it happens next time, then I can go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Mrs. Chopper
Yes.
and Mrs. Whitby.
Yes.
Okay, with a motion of 7-0, motion approved. Can we have a approval of the consent agenda? Make a motion to approve consent agenda. Yeah,
Place forth a motion that we receive the consent agenda in its written form.
Support.
okay. Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. McCain. Sorry about that. Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Richardson,
Approve and support.
Mrs. Chopper,
Yes.
and Mrs. Whitby.
Yes.
Board President, if I may.
Yes.
I'd like
Superintendent.
to present to the Board of Education. We do have one member in the non-instructional new hires present with us this evening. Deanne Irby has accepted the position of Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations. And Ms. Irby has joined us out in the audience this evening. So
Welcome.
thank you, and welcome to Deanne.
Welcome.
Superintendent's report.
All right, good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to those of you joining online as well as in the audience. This is the superintendent's report for February 24th as we continue our campaign for excellence here in East Point Community Schools. So first, I want to start off with a big thank you to Robert Carlesso. His last week of work with East Point Community Schools will be this Friday. Congratulations to Executive Director of Business and Operations, Robert Carlesso, on his retirement. Robert has been an integral part of improving our school facilities in his time here. He was responsible for helping to lower tax rates for taxpayers, refinance our millage with the city, brought forth the sinking fund, as well as instrumental in helping to pass the 2023 bond. And so I think about the way that our buildings looked before Robert came and now the impact that Robert's will have, his legacy. He'll be able to drive around the streets of East Point and be able to drive past the schools and know that his leadership was part of, a huge part of the improvements that we have been able to do here at East Point Community Schools. We also have a really healthy fund balance, and that's a huge tribute to Robert hiding all the money from all of us and working hard. And that was intentional. I say that in jest, but intentional work by our team to build that fund balance so that we could see us into the future and continue our work to improve our school district. So thank you so much, Robert, for your leadership, and you will be missed here at the team. Congratulations to District Technology Coordinator and Safety Coordinator Danny Latham for obtaining his Chief Technology Officer certification. This is 2.5 years of hard work, and we're very proud of Danny for adding this certificate to his cadre of skills. So congratulations to Danny. Fall 2025 kindergarten enrollment information. If your child is turning 5 on or before September 1st, they are eligible to enroll in kindergarten this fall. We will be having some centralized kindergarten roundup. Please join us at the Early Learning Center for one of 3 informational meetings to learn more and to start the enrollment process. Thursday, March 13th, it is an evening kindergarten roundup, as well as 2 sessions on Friday, March 14th, 8:30 to 9:30, and 1 to 2. So if you have a kindergarten eligible student, I hope you'll please come and participate in our roundup. Because we are shifting to K-5 schools, not all of our current schools have kindergarten classrooms. So that's why the roundup is being held at the Early Learning Center. A district van update, congratulations to Denise Thompson. GPS and cameras have been installed in the vans. The driver has been hired. Denise is in district today, so we captured this picture of her because she will be starting to drive our transit van around our community. And we've got a lot of homeless families that will be benefiting immediately, as well as some of our smaller sports teams. So welcome, Denise, and we're glad to have you start living into that vision of the transit van service. Emerging Leaders Day. 6 of our East Point High School students and one of our teachers, Miss Meredith Barton Rodriguez, joined members of our school board at the Macomb celebration of Black Excellence's Emerging Leaders Day at Love Life last week. A great opportunity to engage in networking, panel discussions, and more, as well as our board members, many of whom attended the Black Excellence Gala on Saturday evening. Thank you, Ms. Barton Rodriguez, and thank you, Love Life, for this opportunity for our student leaders. Crescentwood Literacy Intervention. Crescentwood Elementary School has redesigned its reading intervention program and is having impressive results. Students are assessed and grouped into 4 levels based on their specific needs, and it's all hands on deck at Crescentwood helping children to be able to read. So we're proud of all of the work that the staff at Crescentwood has put into developing this intervention plan. 1,000 career points were hit. Congratulations to Denia Sadler, who scored her 1,000th career point as a Shamrock during Friday night's game. It was a 56-5 win over Lincoln. A big thank you to Lincoln because the whole crowd went crazy when Denia hit that shot, and the game stopped momentarily to celebrate her and this amazing victory. She's got 3 college offers, and we're very excited for her. Bowling regionals, our East Point High School bowling team finished off their season at Division II regionals this weekend in Commerce Township. They also celebrated senior Kevin May during halftime at Friday night's basketball game. This week in athletics, for those of you who do not know, we are hosting the district basketball finals. So it's called Districts, will be hosted at East Point High School. A huge thank you to our athletic and activities director, Paris McCarthy, who has put a lot of time into preparing to be a host. It included making sure that the facility was looking better. And this weekend, over the weekend, one of the final doors, our athletic doors inside our athletic entrance have gotten a facelift just in time to host Districts next week. So the floors have been scrubbed, the walls have been painted, old stuff has been, the whole showcase has been cleaned up to welcome our guests and our other neighboring schools. So congratulations and a big thank you to Ms. McCarthy for her leadership and those upgrades. So again, coming events, March 13 and 14, kindergarten roundup meetings at the Early Learning Center. A reminder to families, in-district placement and schools of choice preference forms as we go to that K-5 model for next year are due March 17th. That is a firm deadline. Any forms received after that time may not get their request honored. So please be mindful of that, families. And then spring break is March 24th through the 28th. Please don't forget to check our website. We've got a great webpage for that K-5 transition under the Parents tab, as well as you can follow us at Shamrock Country on social media to get the latest updates on our athletic events and activities. And that concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Super. Next, we have the hearing of the public. Do we have anybody who wish to be heard? This hearing of the public is for agenda items only. For agenda items only. Is there anybody who wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Microphone,
Yes,
okay,
mic.
microphone is on now.
Thank you.
Mr. McCain brought up an excellent point as I was reading through this. And an amendment to the agenda could have been made prior to approval, which would have made it a lot easier for people who don't want to just hang around, but want to be heard and want to hear what you have to say as well. So, but that would have been the appropriate strategy to use for that. In the consent agenda with finances, it would also be nice to hear some discussion about how money is being spent. Because basically all the public is getting is what was spent, or the amount, but not for what. So that would be an interesting addition to get a better understanding of how taxpayer dollars are being used. Just a thought. And I'll save the rest for later. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none, we will close the hearing of the public at 6:48. Okay, next discussion item is 2024 business audit.
Good evening. This evening we have Jennifer Watkins, a partner at our audit firm, Yo and Yo, here to present the 6/30/24 audited financial statements.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. In front of you is a PowerPoint presentation. And I know I'm here in February, but your audit was submitted on time to the state of Michigan by their deadline. So no worries there. It was all delivered appropriately. So the first thing I just want to go over is kind of the responsibilities between the district and the auditor for what is the audit, because I think that's a good place to start. And this is right out of your audit report. So in your regular financial audit, we talk about the district being responsible for the day-to-day implementation of your internal controls, day-to-day operations, basically everything that gets to what numbers are in your financial statements at the end. And then the auditor is really to give an opinion and be a third party, also an independent third party, look at what those numbers are. The next slide goes over your audit results. You did receive an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. That's the best opinion you can get, and that's what you want to see. In the end, basically, it means that your financial statements are free from any material misstatement. The next slide continues with your overall audit results. You did have one material weakness this year for audit adjustments, which we'll go over what those were in just a second. You did have no other significant deficiencies, no material noncompliance, no fraud or abuse noted. With your audit, you also receive a governance letter, and in that, there's a lot of, I always say audit lingo or accounting lingo, but a few snippets from that, the important things where there was no disagreements with management. We also didn't have difficulties in finding information, like an invoice or a bank rec, something, they were able to get us information. We had no uncorrected misstatements. And then this is where we list out the significant audit adjustments. One was for commodities, which I will note there is an in and an out, so that doesn't affect your overall fund balance for commodities. And the other is state and federal revenue. And the offset of unavailable or deferred revenue, and then also accounts receivable there. And then we also had one comment, which these we consider management comments, where they're not findings, they're just something that we think to better the overall audit is use of grant codes and the overall budget transparency reporting on the website. So nothing that we consider to the degree of a finding, but just to make everything run a little bit smoother, which have all been communicated to Robert and his team. Next slide is your single audit. And for the past few years with ESSER dollars, we've been auditing quite a bit of the single audit dollars. You are considered a low-risk auditee for the past years, good audits that you've had. So we only have to audit 20%, but we've been auditing upwards of 50, 60% with the ESSER dollars. But with your single audit, and that's over your federal dollars, you had unmodified opinions on both audit reports, which is what you want. You had no findings, no fraud, abuse, noncompliance, nothing noted in your single audit. Everything was great to go with your federal dollars. And we audited special education and again, the education stabilization funds, which is your ESSER and GEAR dollars. Next slide, I won't go into too much, but we're having new accounting standards. I always say they just keep coming. We had the adoption of Statement 100, and they're just going to keep coming. I think we have 5 more for the next year that are coming out, and a lot of them don't change. They change what we do, but they don't change what you're seeing. So not too much. We just have to keep up to date on them. The next slide goes over a little bit of the audit process, just so you can get an idea of what we do. But a lot of it is understanding the processes, internal controls, how one transaction kind of goes through the system to make sure everything's handled appropriately. As mentioned in the past, we always do something a little bit different every year. We always throw a new test in there and take out a test because as Robert is retiring, most of what we ask he's expecting. We audit, we always ask for bank recs, we always ask for what's your fixed assets. So a lot of it's known what we're gonna ask for, so we always change something every year and ask for something a little bit different. That's that unpredictability about halfway down there in your procedures. And then we do a ton of compliance testing. I always say school districts, they get tested and tested. You guys have different oversight agencies, MDE, but you also have other ones. For your federal dollars, you have state compliance requirements. I sit on the referent group at MDE, so I write the audit manual, and it's a whole list of compliance requirements and different reports that have to be filed at different times. So we test all of those to make sure they're all happening and everything's, in accordance with the appropriate compliance. The next couple sheets are straight out of your audit report, and snippets of the balance sheet is first. Total assets is $50.1 million. The majority of that is in your general fund at $27.7 million. And then also you have a healthy amount in your 24 capital projects funds. And this is as of the end of the school year. Liabilities, your total is $16 million. And again, the majority is in general fund, and then there's a due to the general fund in your capital project funds. The next slide is your overall fund balance. There's a little bit at the top that is kind of like a deferred revenue. It's called an unavailable revenue. That's due to the 60-day rule, which is $100,000. So in school districts, if you do not receive revenue that's owed to you within 60 days after year end, it ends up being a liability on your books. So, but it will come to you in the next school year. The fund balance overall, though, that's the majority of this page. Total fund balance for the district for all funds is $33.9 million, and then $16 million of that is in the general fund. Ending also, your 24 capital projects funds has $13 million. Debt service at 2.1, and then all other funds, which is like your student activity funds, your food service, those types of funds is $1.9 million. The next couple slides just go over your general fund. Or I should say focus on your general fund. So this slide compares your original budget, final budget, and actual. Your difference at the side there on the right is final to actual, and I'll note both of them are negative, which is what you want to see. Per the state of Michigan and law, you have to spend less than what you budget. So that is a mandatory requirement, or it could lead to a finding. And it's also a little bit of a net change because every dollar you spend with federal, you receive with federal dollars. So a lot of those grants also that you receive have a different year end. So their spending continues to September while they're budgeted in full in the school year. So you ended at a healthy, increased your fund balance at 3.4 million, and the budget was about 1.7 million. The next two slides are pie graphs. One's on revenue for general fund and the other on expenditures. So total revenue, state and local is 66%. The majority of that makes up your foundation allowance, so your per FTE revenue count. And federal, with the recent ESSER dollars, is higher than usual, so it's at 31%. And that is quite a bit higher than you've had in the past because of those additional funds. The next slide is your expenditures, and a note here is that 92% of your overall expenditures for general fund were spent on instruction and supporting services. So a good note there. The next two slides are trend analysis, just to kind of show the board. We keep these in here. I like trend analysis, but I'm a numbers girl. So the first one is your enrollment trend. So from 2015 to 2024, your enrollment. And the next slide is your foundation allowance. So the amount that you receive per every student that you had on the previous page. And this looks like it increased quite a bit in the last couple of years, but I actually do kind of a calculation to myself, and if you had a regular increase from 2015 to 2024 of 5% a year, you would be receiving about $12,000. So I always mention that, and I think prior to 2015, and Robert probably knows off the top of his head, but it stayed very similar without any increases for a while. So I know sometimes with what we use for an access, it looks like it hiked up a bit, but you've had minimal increases with the amount of other increases, obviously, that you've had to regular expenses, such as healthcare and pension expenses. And one of the last slides here over fund balance, we have 2018 to 2024 fund balance. So you do have a healthy sitting fund balance in the last several years, but 24 ended with 16 million for your ending fund balance. So you're in a very good position, especially if you compare to 2018 and even the years before that. It's a very good place to be. And the next slide gives you just some percentages that most boards look at, and also the state of Michigan. The first one is your fund balance as a percentage of unrestricted revenue. So the state looks at that number to see if you're in financial distress. So you're at 58%, which is amazing. And then your fund balance as a percent of expenditures at 37%. And then also we put in there the days expenditures and fund balance. So if all the activity ended, but you still had to pay all your bills, how many days you could pay them, it would be 67. And that is all I had, but I'm happy to take any questions. And I just want to say thank you to Robert. He's definitely helped amazing in the business office, and with the changeover lately in the business office, we couldn't have got through the audit without you, so I very much appreciate it, and you will be missed, but I'm looking forward to working with the new team as well. So thank you, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Question?
Yeah, I have a couple. All right. So you mentioned that because we've had positive audits in years past, that you don't actually audit the entire district's finances, is that correct?
So because you've had healthy audits in years past, it's only for the single audit portion, not the regular financial audit. So you have two audits, kind of, and per the guidance in the compliance supplement over your federal dollars, if you're considered a low-risk auditee, which you were for '24, you technically only have to audit 20% of your federal dollars. So it's like IDEA funds, and this is in addition to normal audits, so where we're pulling. So those didn't really affect the financials too much. It was how to handle maybe an estimate or if you had an error and how to show it in your statements. Recently they have 101, which is overcompensated absences. That will affect your statements next year. That should have a pretty good synopsis, maybe in the governance letter. In general, I don't think it's gonna change for school districts too much, except for you have to now add in, it's basically like PTO, but we'll be adding in what we anticipate they take during the year, plus their maximum. So in the past, if your contract said they could get paid out for 400 hours, we would cut it at 400 hours. But instead, if we think they're gonna take 100 plus 400, so it could increase that number. However, that number is only affecting your district-wide statements, not your general fund budget. There's also gonna be some changes and some additional information added. So in your big audit, your section 5 is like budget to actual. We're gonna have to add some information there, some additional information to like your general fund budget to actual. I think we have to show another amendment. I think that might be 102 or 103. But I know I'll be at MSBO this year talking about them. So that's my job this year, is to talk about the accounting update for them. But those two will be the biggest, and there might be some changes with your MD&A as well up and coming, but that may hit, I believe that it's gonna affect your 26. So Robert gets out of those changes.
Awesome, thank you. And I was just curious, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to confirm with you. Does our enrollment trend mirror what you're seeing in other districts across the state?
So I'll say it depends, but yes. In general, and we at Yo and Yo audit about 80 school districts. I probably personally do board meetings and personally partner on about 25 to 30, depending on the year. And yes, so they're all slightly declining, even if there's movement. They had some of them had upticks in years past. But in the recent years, they've been declining. And also seeing from, and I don't want to misspeak, but 10 years ago, or I should know this because my daughter's in first grade, but like the kindergarten enrollment was low in years past, and now we're seeing that, affect the overall enrollment.
And my last question is, and maybe this was covered in the broader document, I missed it, but, because I know this is something we look at with the city as well, but what percentage of our pension and OPEB are funded
Your specific?
for the district?
I
No
think it's about,
idea.
Robert, is it 12% reimbursement on pension right now?
Do you mean the UAL portion that you get reimbursed from the state?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things, like our pension is part of the state's pension for teachers.
Right.
And I think the rate has gone down, so it's getting closer to being fully funded. I think the last time I saw it was like it'd be 2038 that would be paid off.
Okay.
So our rate, what the superintendent was talking about, is partially subsidized, a portion of the retirement. It comes through as a revenue source as opposed to, retirement rate stays the same, but we get certain revenue in our state aid to offset that. But the rate will be coming down, I think, slowly over the next, 10 years or so, before it's paid off.
Yeah, it was increasing quite a bit, and it kind of does skewed the numbers because the overall expense was hitting almost 40%, but then you were offsetting by revenue about 12%. And then last year, and I get my years messed up, but you got a really large payment. The state gave like a one-time kind of payment to get that down. And now I think we're seeing the benefits of that because the payment or the percent is slowly going down. But I remember being at my first board meeting and the percentage was like 5%. And then after that, it just hiked quite a bit. But I think we're seeing finally it coming the other way a little bit.
I think those are all my questions.
All right, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Your overall fund balance, a healthy, steady fund balance, 31%.
I would,
Did I read that wrong?
your overall fund balance is higher, I believe.
Higher than that?
Than that.
37.
37.1.
37.
Now, you have to understand that that's kind of an inflated number because we're coming off of some of, I mean, it's the actual number. But the ESSER grant funds allowed the district, that was part of the reason that our fund equity has increased so much, is that the ESSER funds helped to, that large infusion of grant funds helps the district to add to our fund balance.
Yeah, and that's been a trend recently too. And there's two trends going on in schools. One is that some received those ESSER dollars, really focused on how they spent them, and had an increase in their fund balance quite a bit to get to a kind of a healthy, safe, place where they have some to use in the future. And then some others kind of spent them all on one-time items or different things and are looking 5 years out and having huge problems. But those were able to be supplanted, so you could use them for regular general fund purposes or regular purposes. So we've seen both kind of things happen in the last year with schools. It's kind of 50% both ways.
If I can add on that, we used our ESSER funds primarily on infrequent expenditures, like, sort of like one-time expenditures, like we replaced all our curriculum. That hadn't been done in probably 10 years, or 25, okay. But, so like, we would normally have to take that out of general fund. But because we had this ESSER money, we were able to use that. We used some of our ESSER money on repairs or improvements to our facilities, which we were paying a lot of money on repair costs every year. So we've tried to be real strategic about how we use those funds so it would benefit us going forward. One thing we did not do was spend it on salary and benefits. So in that sense, we're not going to have that big cliff coming up where we have to all of a sudden have like spending most of our revenue on salary and benefits. So we've maintained our spending so that we should be able to cover all our salary and benefits with our revenue. We don't have like a structural deficit, in other words. We have a structural surplus. Revenue
We
exceeds
also
our
don't
expenses.
borrow any money. We have
Right.
enough cash in the bank that we're able to pay our bills regularly and do not have to go for a bank note to the Board of Education. So we're in a very healthy space where we don't have to borrow money. We have a healthy savings account, which is that fund balance as well.
My question would be, I'm not sure if that even is the same that for you is the new law that came out about the front loading of benefits.
So the ESTA law came into effect 2/21/25, and that doesn't necessarily impact the audit, although it sounds like some of the paid time off information will become part of
Part of
that.
the audit, yeah.
But ESTA, we are all set on ESTA because our collective bargaining agreements have more than enough time that
Okay.
is front-loaded. The only unit we may have to explore and look at for ensuring the front load is Local 120, our food service contract, because there is some language there about earning the time. So otherwise, I don't think it really impacts us for the audit. But it is interesting
No, but
that
it's been a
paid
big
time
question.
off will be part of those 100 rules for the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
Good question.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
We're
Thank-
doing the amended budget report. amended budget report.
Yep, so Robert is just going to give this is Robert's farewell moment to give the board a little update on where the amended budget is and his work in his final weeks, ensuring that we're set up for this finance transition.
Thank you. So the last few years, the district has done one amendment at the end of the year. So this is the first time we've done a mid-year amendment in a few years now. But it'll be done in the next couple days, and I'll prepare a memo summarizing the results. We're on track to have a surplus again this year. And it'll identify any risks or opportunities in that budget. And then the superintendent can forward that memo to you so that you understand our position for 2025. But, everything looks as expected, that we projected the year would be, so.
This is your chance to grill Robert with lots of questions in his last week of employment. So does anybody have any questions about, I've asked for an amended budget mid-year just because I wanted to have a clean transition between Robert and Deanne Irby. So we'll get that, and then the board will have some questions, and we'll take a look at that, and Deanne can decide if she wants to have the board approve it or if she wants to review it. But Robert is planning to leave the district in a state where a mid-year review has been conducted on our budget so that the board knows that we're either on track, and he's telling us that he's on track and planning a surplus again. So I think it's a great financial position for Robert to start his retirement.
Not that we want to see you go.
I got a question. In the event that we need to call you, is your number still available? No.
I don't think
I
we
am
have to
keeping
do
my
that.
same
We
phone
have
number,
somebody
yeah.
that's coming in that's going.
So the ORS retirement rules do not allow us to engage in any conversation with Robert 30 days. So you cannot call him. It might jeopardize Robert's retirement.
Okay.
Okay,
We don't want to do that.
don't do that.
Just joking.
Okay, next thing is curriculum, the MDE final partnership benchmark review summary.
So this board has publicly spoken about our progress in the partnership agreement. We spoke about it in November directly after. A number of the board members were present at that final benchmark review, but the MDE has provided us with their final report, and one of the requirements is that 60 days after receiving that report, it will be an item for the board on the board's agenda. So I'm going to go over the status of our partnership agreement here today. And so we are on track. There are 3 determinations that the MDE will give a district. It's either on track, off track with progress, and off track. And this is a screen share, a capture of the benchmark review status determination of on track. The district level benchmarks, this is the interim benchmarks for the district. We have met all 3 of the district level pieces that were defined in the partnership agreement. The high school benchmarks, the high school had 6 interim targets. All of those have been met. Pleasant View Elementary School had 5 targets, and all of those targets have been met. The benchmark review summary shows that all of our metrics have been met. And we are on track with both of our schools as part of the partnership agreement. So I will entertain any questions about us meeting our 18-month goals.
I do. I have a question. After looking at those, the percentage that they're asking them to obtain, why are they so low?
So the percentages are calculated in half for the 18-month benchmark review. The full 36-month benchmark review has a larger, but what happens is the schools are identified, and then the district writes the partnership agreement. So the goals are created through a process going back and forth with the MDE, we define those goals. And so the goal of the 1% that you might see is half of what the total goal is for the 36-month.
But still, do you think it's not, is
So-
it because we're trying to obtain it, or is it because it can't go any higher, or?
So what we want to do when we have a partnership agreement is we want to be able to define and to make goals that we can make, so that we can be on track. Our internal goals and our expectations for academic performance are much higher than what we might define in a partnership agreement. But the purpose of that partnership agreement is to also set obtainable goals, and to not set a goal such that we wouldn't be able to meet it. And so our data is well exceeding the percentages that were set.
Because when I looked at it, it was as if we're not reaching a goal, but you said our goals are not.
Well,
This is just with the
This is the
partnership.
agreement with the state on the percentages that we will meet. And so we agree, the Macomb Intermediate School District agrees, and the MDE agreed to those goals. So those three entities have to agree on the partnership agreement goals. Addie, Trustee Richardson, we absolutely want more than those goals, but we also don't want to have any, so there are more ramifications if the district is not meeting their goals. So the purpose of writing a partnership agreement is to write them in a way that the MDE will be able to see our growth and that we will be able to obtain.
Any questions?
Yes, just one, and I think it kind of builds upon.
So unfortunately, in the school accountability game, the bottom 5% is always going to be a moving number because it depends on how everybody at that time does. It is not a set point. It's always going to be moving. And so you could have a school on and have the same score, and then the next year you could have a school off and still have the same score because it depends on whatever the bottom 5% of the state is.
Okay, one more. So because we have 7 schools, it's only, you can take any of the higher level functioning schools to make that point?
No, each school is assessed on their own data.
But they only have 2 here.
We have 2 identified schools.
Yes.
The rest of our schools, so currently we have 2 K2 buildings, Crescent Wood and Forest Park. Those schools don't have state assessment because state assessment begins in 3rd grade. So we have 2 schools that would never be able to be identified.
Okay.
The Early Learning Center doesn't have a state requirement as well, so that school would never be able to be identified. And then, so our other schools, Pleasant View, Bellevue, middle school and high school, all could potentially be identified schools. And so we are a partnership district because we have an identified school.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Okay. All right, great, thank you so much.
Okay, next thing is the Board of Education, the MESB Board of Directors election, Region 8, year 1 term, a 3-term limit. So we had a group of 8 people that was identified, interviewed, and investigated, and we need to decide who we would like to choose as the person that we're going to bring up for Region 8 for that 1-term, 3-year term. I'm not sure if everybody chose someone, but I did investigate someone. Her name is Mrs. Hannah from the Pontiac School District. She is a board member who has a master board member. She has been on the board for 3 years. She has a job that aligns with MESB, so she is available to be present. She has a passion for education. She went through the Pontiac District from 0 to high school, went to college, then came back and worked for the district as a school board member. She graduated. I was able to kind of go on to some of the board meetings and hear her at her board meetings and how she ran her board meetings. I also spoke to some people who knew her to kind of ask some questions. Like, I really did my due diligence before I just said, let's bring somebody. It wasn't just, let's pick this person. Because we don't have an incumbent, we need to pick somebody, and it's easy to always pick the incumbent. But since we don't, I wanted to make sure that I did my due diligence on all of the candidates. I literally watched all the videos. They had interviews. They spoke at different conferences. And so after I did all of that, I made sure that I picked somebody that I thought we could bring forward. Since Don Wachuva, am I saying his name right? Wachuva, he's going on a national stage now, so he won't be here. And so we need to pick somebody, and she was the person that had fresh ideas and new perspectives. So I want to bring forward and make a nomination that we pick Dr. Hannah as our Region 8 representative. I made the motion. I need a second for it. Yeah.
So Dr. Early made a motion to approve Dr. Hannah, so you would need a second,
Now second.
Okay. Any questions?
a discussion.
Discussions. I'm used to the- Yes.
Sorry, I didn't go into quite as much detail, but I did thoroughly read and think about through this guide that they sent out. So what I had done was kind of like rank the candidates from my top choice all the way down. So, I would be willing to support Ms. Hannah, but I also wasn't sure if we wanted to have any more discussion on it, or if, anyone else had kind of went into the same amount of detail that you had.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I went down the different, candidates and looked at all of their, information and interviews and stuff, and I was looking at a different candidate, Mr. Wallace, because he's been on the board for a while and everything, but I'm willing to support, Mrs. Hannah as well.
All right. Can you call the vote?
I can.
Thank you.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Chopra,
Yes.
Mrs. Whitby,
Yes.
and Mr. McCain.
Yes.
Okay, with a vote of 7-0, okay, motion carried. For the next one? Or on that one?
On this one, yes. I was curious what their name was, just for my record's sake, that's all.
Okay, we can get that.
Ian, who did you pick? Who was your candidate? Roderick Means?
Means. Okay, and next we have on the agenda is School of Choice 105.
So this is the board's annual vote on in-county schools of choice. In order to open up the window in the spring, we would need the board to approve schools of choice for in-county, and in-county is 105.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the School of Choice 105 for in-county School of Choice?
Make a motion to accept School of Choice 105.
Support.
Who we-
Ian
Ian.
can have it.
Ian,
Got it.
okay, can you please call the vote?
Yes. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. McCain,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
No.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
Mrs. Chopra,
Yes.
Mrs. Whitby.
Yes.
Okay, with a vote of 6-1, motion carried. Yes. 6-1. Okay, now we have, next item is School of Choice 105C.
So the board has its resolution and board packet. 105C is the resolution to support out-of-county student enrollment in schools of choice.
Okay, can I have a motion for the School of Choice 105C?
So moved. No, you gotta make the motion.
You gonna make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. And support, Ian, support?
Support, yes.
Okay. Point of order.
I didn't hear the motion.
Yeah.
Someone heard the
I didn't-
motion.
I didn't say the motion?
They didn't say the motion.
I said I would like
Dr.
to make a motion for School of Choice 105C.
105C, the motion was
Okay, from
made.
you. Okay, I thought it was
Dr.
coming
Early
from,
vocalized it. Trustee Chopa gave support or accepted it, so moved. And then the second was by trustee McCain.
Move the unreadiness.
Call the vote, please.
Okay, Mrs. Chopra,
Yes.
Mr. McCain,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
No.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Whitby.
No.
Okay, with a vote of 5-2, motion is carried. Okay, I will need a motion for a closed session for attorney-client privilege.
So moved.
I'll make a motion. I'll support.
Okay, please call the vote.
Mr. McCain,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
No.
Mrs. Chopra,
Yes.
and Mrs. Whitby.
Yes.
With a motion of 6-1, motion carried. We'll be going into closed session, and after that, we'll have our hearing of the public, trustees' comments, and then adjourn. just said it. We're open 23. We're open up the second hearing of the public. Is anybody wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Hall Rayford. There was, a few months ago, I think probably about October, November, gentleman wanted to make an offer for the tennis court that was behind the high school. I didn't hear anything else about it, so I wondered if anyone else knew that there had been an offer. It's on.
You got to get a little bit closer to it.
It's, okay.
Offer for the tennis court.
Yeah, there was an offer. But I don't know what happened with that, and I didn't know if anyone else would, but I think that might be a useful consideration right now because it's just vacant land. It's not like it's being used for anything. It never hurts to keep the coffers built up for unexpected expenses, and if you can get a decent price for it, why not? I understand there's also some other property that the district owns that might be helpful. I'm going to try very hard to make sure that I look for opportunities that make the district function better or enhances the way it functions, because I live here and I'm paying taxes. So that's my whole purpose of showing up, and you'll see me. You may not like what I have to say. You may not like what anybody else has to say, but the thing that you have to be very careful about is allowing them to say it. Because the last thing you want to do is to infringe upon someone's First Amendment rights. That could get ugly. You don't want to go there. People are finding that out all the time. I just got a couple of complaints, too, about the issue that you've already decided to do something about. Just try to be considerate of your audience, because having people wait, and I know what that's like. I've been on the other side, too. So I wanted to tell Robert, I didn't get a chance to tell him, but I'll say this again. When I had questions about finances, and he was able to answer them for me, the first time I did that, I thanked him for responding to my question. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, and I don't know why to this day, that someone took my thanking him for answering a question to be an accusation of asking for an audit. I don't know why that was. I do know that I like information.
19 seconds.
And when I have questions, I go to the person that I think can answer it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jennifer Nicholas. I think you guys are right. I think putting the second hearing of the public before closed session is probably better. I didn't even realize as far as that these are televised and that, so you got kind of a pretty long intermission in the middle of your meeting if people are watching at home or even if they're streaming it afterwards. And this way, if you do it this way, I think it might even be better for you because I'm sure you're discussing important things and that can sometimes be taxing, and then to have to come back out here and listen to us and then speak to us, I think it's really good. I'm glad that you've decided to do it the other way around going forward. Thank you again, and I hope you have a really good night.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Andrea Jordan. I'm here to advocate for my son. Friday, I had a meeting with the superintendent. She already came in. Her mind was already made up based off what she said she read on her paperwork versus my son. He had an altercation with Principal Yorks, yet again. This time I pursued charges. I asked, she was telling me that on paperwork, it says that his academics is not in order. Of course, his academics won't be in order because he's been suspended for 45 days out of the first semester. Starting this school semester, he's been suspended for another 10 days. He's missed 8 days so far. And yet you're focused on his academics. Of course, his academics are going to be crappy because he's not getting the chance to show what he knows or show anything if he's constantly being suspended. And also, because I know it's a bit much, how much is enough? Like, how much is enough for her to sit up here and have 4 lawsuits against her already for discriminating against people of color? For her to still be sitting up here at this booth, and the school district that she is sitting in front of is primarily of African-American kids. She's not going to remain unbiased in the situation. Her mind is already made up. So what steps do we as parents do to protect our children in this sense? Because if it was my child that was coming at Principal Yorks with the aggression or pushing or shoving on him, my child would have been arrested. I would like answers just off that.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Javon. I'm just speaking on the fact of the situation of the way things are being handled or do be handled. It seems as the system is flawed in many ways. I feel like the system is flawed in many ways because when you have a complaint, the steps to people you have to talk to can either push it off or not deliver it to the people that need to get to. It took me weeks, months to get the information I need to get to the point I am at now. But it only got there because of my son facing expulsion. Not because I constantly complained or I spoke to the school officer, district officer, it didn't go nowhere. Spoke to the principal, it didn't go nowhere. It don't go nowhere till the little small fires become too many and it's causing too much damage. And now they want to contain it. Where the little complaints could have caused a simple sit down and see a solution before it blows up. My situation is, how can you change that narrative so it won't have to go to where we still losing? Because my son, education is being hindered, and now he had to take alternative routes to get the education he wants. He can no longer go to the school building, but it could have been solved a long time ago when the first complaints came. So if I can make a complaint to the right people, I need to know who them people are, or put a system in place where you can make these complaints to the right people and everybody come as a one and get a decision, and the people, the parents, and the students can get answers. That's the only issue I have, to find a way to fix the situation, the flaw in the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're closing the hearing of the public at 8:32. Okay, next is trustee announcements. We're going to start with Mr. McCain.
This one's probably going to be a little bit longer than ones that I have in the future, but I just want to make sure that the community knows about different things that are happening. So first of all, I want to thank the board for the confidence and support, allowing me to step into this role, and just look forward to working with you all to continue serving the community. The two things I'm really interested in that I mentioned in my application and that I want to focus on, and I've expressed with all of you, is how we can increase enrollment from East Point residents, and also, expand some of the different extracurricular offerings, in particular career and technical education. So if you have any ideas, community, please email me. I'd love to chat more about how we can continue to expand those. Really enjoyed spending Saturday with many of you at the Macomb Black Excellence Award. Oh, sorry. And I'm looking forward to the dinner tomorrow. Continue to go through all the orientation materials and excited to dive into the 100 level classes. In terms of some things that are happening on in the city, our next neighborhood watch meeting is on tomorrow, actually, February 25th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall, and we'll include our new fire chief, Jason Clark, so if you're interested, come out for that. Rotary Club is hosting a free dinner the next day at 5:30 at Emmanuel Methodist Church, so come on out for that. And then the State of the City is next week, hosted by the East Point Roseville Chamber of Commerce, so that's on March 5th at 11:30, just across the street at LFA, and you'll get a chance to hear from Superintendent Gibson, Judge Galen, and the mayor about the current and future developments in East Point. And there'll also be a town hall event for our new police and court building on March 6th at 6 p.m. So if you'd like to share your feedback on that new building, please come out for that. And one of the biggest things that's going to be happening here in the spring through the fall is we're going to be replacing our water mains on northbound in between Topher and 10 Mile, and on southbound between 9 and 10. The city does send out a monthly e-newsletter, so please sign up so you're aware of some of these different things that are happening. And I'll end with one of my favorite quotes, and hopefully some of you are familiar with it as well. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And that's from Margaret Mead. Thank you.
Ms. Chapel?
I don't really have much tonight. It's a busy time of year for me, so I'm not able to get out in the public until May. But I just want the public to know that if you want to email anybody on the board, you can go right to our email through the school website and send us messages that way. Thank you.
Mr. Roscoe?
Just want to thank the community and the school and the children for giving us an opportunity to get together on Saturday night. And thank them also for sending us to various classes throughout the city and state. Without you guys, we're nothing. And we thank you for those opportunities. And to just collaborate with our new board members, new trustees. I think it's a great thing. We had so much fun to see, not at business on Saturday, but smiling and laughing and getting to know each other. I want to thank this great administration for the great work that they're doing. Moving forward, we want to congratulate, also I want to congratulate Robert in his retirement. I know he's warranted, he's earned it, but I'm looking forward to also working with our new accountant as well. Lost her name, what is her name? Deanna Irby. Just want to welcome her on board and looking forward to talking with her as well. And again, whatever going on and what you hear, just keep on living, keep moving forward, because everything is going to be all right.
Ms. Richardson?
Yes, I just want to take this time to encourage our parents to please come forth, come to the board meetings, go to the schools, make yourself present, because we are all one. We're trying to work for your benefit and your behalf. So please come out and support and show yourself or let yourself know that we're here to help and to make a better community. We all are working together. And if you don't have children, if your neighbors have children, encourage them to come and go to the schools and be a part. Thank you so very much.
Ms. Whitby?
So by me being new, I just want to say thank you to the old board members, the old trustees for taking me under their wing and okay, I ain't mean to say not old, but the seasoned trustees for taking me under their wing and I'm just gleaming from them. I too enjoyed myself on Saturday with you guys. And thank you, Superintendent, for keeping me involved in everything that's going on. Ian, I love what you just did. You can send me all of that, of what's going on around here, okay, please? And that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Mrs. President, thank you, Board. I just want to say thank you to the community for allowing me to continue to serve as one of your trustees. It's been a great pleasure these first 2 terms, and looking forward to the next term. I want to congratulate Naya Sadler for reaching her 1,000th point on the girls' basketball team. That's a great feat. And I would like to, if my time permits, to try to get to a game or 2. The reports and the things that we do as board members a lot of times go unseen and go unnoticed, but again, I just want to reassure you that we do hear you, we do take everything into consideration, and we are working as a unit to bring the best, to put the best district in front of you. And just remember, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes months, weeks, sometimes years to get things accomplished. But we are definitely diligently working in the best district's favor. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Okay, first I want to say congratulations to our basketball team. They won against Hazel Park, 53-49. Them boys is working it out. The only thing I have is, for our community is we have a, Forgotten Harvest distribution. It is the first and third Thursday of each month from 2 to 4, starting March 6th. So if anybody is in need, please come out to the distribution. If you need more information, see Mr. Roscoe. All right, meeting adjourned, 8:40.